Predictions by global financial institutions on the continuous fall in global oil prices are gradually becoming a reality. The crude oil price has now fallen below $30 per barrel in the international market. And almost side by side, the lifting of embargoes on Iran oil sales to the world has also resulted in new deliveries and therefore surplus of supply over demand. This is leaving many oil-dependent nations like Nigeria to double up their games on developing strategies to survive the coming economic hard times. This, many economists believed, can be realized through non-oil export. This is Export Digest, a 30-minute expose on potentials in the non-oil export sector of Nigeria. I am Femi Boyede.
No nation depends on one source of revenue if it hopes to create a sustainable economic development and a future for its citizenry. Countries like Malaysia, India, Singapore, and even Kenya have all grown and sustained their respective economies through non-oil exports. Our vision at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is to promote non-oil export as the key driver of the Nigerian economy through strategic diversification of the economy from oil to non-oil. NEPC is strategically positioned to do more through our action plan on 13 national strategic export products, Zero Oil Plan, the One State, One Product Initiative, and the Nigeria Diaspora Export Program, which are needed pillars of success in our National Industrial Revolution Plan. Investing non-oil export business and reap bountifully. Export business guarantees a prosperous future through inclusive wealth and job creation. Join hands to make Nigeria one of the top 20 largest economies in the world. Export business, tomorrow's business. For further inquiries, visit our website on www.nepc.gov.ng.
In its efforts at addressing the challenges of depleting oil revenues, the federal government has, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, unveiled a 300 billion naira export stimulation facility for the non-oil export sector. It is through a single-digit interest loan for Nigerian exporters. This is expected to shore up the declining revenues from the non-oil export sector of the country, which is believed is partially due to low export loans. Whether this is seen as a responsive or a reactive act, the fact is that Nigeria is reacting to the fast fall in the global oil prices. On the program today, we bring you the policy statements of the Governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, at the Nexim Bank and CBN co-organized strategic workshop on strategies for growing Nigeria's non-oil exports that held recently in Abuja. At the forum, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council also joined other stakeholders to lend its voice to the development of the non-oil export in Nigeria.
Now, the Zero Oil Plan is a very bold strategic plan. And what it says is that, look, we identify some export sectors. And we use 3 criteria to identify those sectors. One, it must be a sector that is trading above $20 billion internationally. If it's not, we're not interested. Remember, we're looking for $30 billion to look for. Then it must be a place where we have some technology about it, and it's not too difficult for us to get into that market. And lastly, the third criteria is where we have competitive and comparative advantage. So we've identified the sectors. Then we now go to the next one. We now put about 5% room. Now the target is that for every of those products, we are looking at 5%. In let me give you an example. In petrochemicals, for example, it's being traded annually. The market is $150 billion. There's no reason why we can't target 5% of that to get some $7.5 billion out of that. Now, petrochemicals, yes, this is where we should be. You know, I always use the example, the first visitor that visited me was in NEPC. And I was the ambassador of Iran. And he said, look, Segun, your LMA petrochemical plant, you need to replicate it. You need to have about 20 of it all around Nigeria. So you can produce and export petrochemicals, because that's what they're doing. The sanction on the Western world was only on oil. But after you process it, it becomes non-oil. Yeah. So you can start exporting it.
Nigerian oil export for 2014 stood at 2.7 billion. This figure was a decrease of 8.6 billion when compared to 2.9 in 2013. You know, of course, agriculture continues to play a predominant role in Nigerian economy, accounting for the bulk of the foreign exchange from non-oil, about 53%. Service sector contributes about 50% of Nigerian GDP after rebasing, which means that that's a sector we should be looking at. You know, that we're talking about diversification of the economy. It's very important we, you know, move other areas. So service sector is a potential area. The next slide. Now, this is in terms of figures. This is what we have between 2010 to 2014, the non-oil receipt we have had. You know, the next slide. And this is in a kind of graphic forms. You see how it goes and goes. So you can see that in 2013, we achieved a height, almost about 3 billion, but in 2014, there was a decrease. You know, a lot of factors could be responsible for that, which will come later. The next slide, please, which is this is a graphical representation of what we see. You can see there's a slide, and it's likely to, if we don't address it, it's likely to be going down. So we need to address this issue, and thank God for this program today. These are kind of things that we need to do so that we can sensitize and see how we can, you know, get our things back to the track. We do not have any choice. That if we must survive as a nation, for us to be able to fund our large imports, we need to boost our export revenues. The only option at this time is the revenues from non-oil sources. We would need your support. We would need you to be ready to jump in to work with us. We've been holding consultations with the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM, and that's why we decided in collaboration with them that we needed to call this conference to meet with you again. I had called the management of NEXIM for a discussion, and we started to look at their portfolio of loans to exporters. And we found, very regrettably, that the size of loans to export, the size of support, which not only the NEXIM or the banks given to export, is abysmally low. We have decided that to stimulate export, the Central Bank of Nigeria itself need to play its role as a catalyst that will help to stimulate export in Nigeria. Doing this will entail setting aside some funds as intervention funds to support export activity in Nigeria. If the central bank has decided to cut your cost of financing by more than half, in this case I'm saying 9%, I think it's a way to start. We are going to look at other policies for review that are acting as impediments and acting adversely to that affecting export business in Nigeria. For a start, we are looking at least nothing less than 50 billion naira as a rediscounting and refinancing facility for export, while we're also looking at least nothing less than 300 billion naira as export stimulation loans.
No nation depends on one source of revenue if it hopes to create a sustainable economic development and a future for its citizenry. Countries like Malaysia, India, Singapore and even Kenya have all grown and sustained their respective economies through non-oil exports. Our vision at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is to promote non-oil export as the key driver of the Nigerian economy through strategic diversification of the economy from oil to non-oil. NEPC is strategically positioned to do more through our action plan on 13 national strategic export products, Zero Oil Plan, the One State, One Product Initiative, and the Nigeria Diaspora Export Program, which are needed pillars of success in our National Industrial Revolution Plan. Investing non-oil export business and reap bountifully. Export business guarantees a prosperous future through inclusive wealth and job creation. Join hands to make Nigeria one of the top 20 largest economies in the world. Export business, tomorrow's business. For further inquiries, visit our website on www.nepc.gov.ng.
How are Nigerians seeing this new initiative by the federal government to fund the non-oil export sector? Export Digest went to town, took to the streets of Abuja to find out.
I think it's a welcome development for government to begin to think of developing the non-oil sector. The abundant human resource, abundant natural resource in this country is enough to sustain this country. There is no problem. There's no reason why this government cannot harness these resources and develop them and make them exportable and earn foreign revenue and foreign exchange for the country.
If government can invest in non-oil export, that will create employment, particularly in the area of agriculture, solid minerals, and it will increase our reserve and also boost the Naira value.
If the objectives of the federal government at activating and expanding the non-oil export sector are to be realized, and the new pool of funds to be injected are to be judiciously utilized, more attention should be focused on the area of capacity building of professionals in the sector. Therefore, this week, Export Digest spotlights an organization that has been in the forefront of building the capacity of Nigerians, especially in non-oil exports. Today I have the pleasure to welcome on Export Digest a second voice or a co-voice, Mr. Export, Obiora Madu. Welcome to Export Digest.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And we have been talking about creating a new economy, a non-oil economy, like Qatar is now on its Vision 2030, which is a non-petroleum economy. I can't be preaching this sermon to you like selling coal taking coal to Newcastle to sell. What are your views? Have they changed?
Thank you very much. It's really unfortunate. I think it was, we will not blame God for giving us too much resources, because the biggest challenge we have is that every other sector of the economy has been destroyed by oil. Right now, reality, the party is over, and the reality is on ground. And I think that this country is so endowed that there are only a few nations in the world that can match our resources. We are largest producer of about 7 to 8 commodities. So the problem is with policy implementation and policy somersault. The problem is with lack of interagency collaboration. The problem is with the soft side of the infrastructure, which is education. Because people seem to see exports as the problem of Export Promotion Council and Ministry of Investment and Trade. But Everybody. Immigration, foreign affairs. What kind of export do you want to do when you don't have a commercial attaché in any of your high commissions and embassies? So it baffles me, really, how we are stepping on firewood and wanting to put it on our head at the same time. That's what Albert Einstein said is madness. Doing this exactly the same way, and then wanting to get a different result. So I think if we don't take the bull by the horns, because we have ourselves to blame, the policy on foreign exchange, economies close to us are getting the benefit of that policy. The EU and the suspension of products from Nigeria. I think there is nothing wrong with any of the commodities that God gave us. Everything is wrong with us as a people. So let me leave it there. But I think if we want to do, like Central Bank of Nigeria, in the 80s, Central Bank ordered every bank to have an export desk and train the people who are on this desk. The result was very obvious. That was when export was actually beginning. Yeah. Now, if people take their proposal to a bank, nobody knows which direction they should take it to. Should it go here or should it go there? That's not what it should be. So maybe we should just return to it and say, look, every bank must have export desk. And elsewhere, there must be a strategic committee, a PPP kind of arrangement. In fact, if you ask me, more of private sector people than public sector. The Côte d'Ivoire Export Promotion Council is one of the most functional in ECOWAS, and you know the reason why. Yeah. It's a PPP, 80% public, private, 20% public. So there is so much, and when you look at our neighbors who were better endowed by any reason, and see how they are making progress, you just feel ashamed. But I think maybe...
Yeah, but Obiora, you and I are aware of what President Obama did. And I think we've mentioned it once or twice on Export Digest. Do you think that Nigeria is ripe now for a cabinet committee on non-oil exports? At least that should be able to provide a solution for this non-agency collaboration and the disconnect with the private sector?
You know what? If we want to make progress, that's the only way to go. Because the president, that committee should be chaired by minimum the vice president. You see, when countries are talking about you want to diversify, you are not narrowing yourself down to a particular area. You are not making any public statement from the top. The president of South Africa said, we are concentrating on two things: outsourcing tourism. When a president makes such a statement, the economy will adjust and go along that very particular line. Yeah. So all this, you have programs like this, the CBN governor will not be able to attend because they are calling him in National Assembly. The MDs of agencies will not be able to attend, and you have directors, people who can take vital decisions. If we continue like that, we won't go far. So we need to have something like the Obama Export Initiative that you're talking about. And when you look at the constitution of that very particular committee, everybody will shiver, and something will happen. But if we continue to talk and talk and talk, it won't get us anywhere. That cabinet level, when Obasanjo appointed special advisor on export, whether the result was achieved or not, at least he sent some signals. Yeah. He sent a very strong signal to the market. And I think if we needed it then, we need it now more than that time. So it's something that the president needs to do something. He needs to have a special advisor on export, that is to show seriousness. He could be the chief executive secretary or whatever you want to call him, of that committee, which is chaired minimum by the vice president.
Okay, Obiora, we won't take too much of your time again, but you talked and you drink, you sleep capacity building. Would you say that we have export readiness capacity in Nigeria? And then, because the producer is winking at me, what do you propose? If it is yes, if it is no.
First of all, in 2005, I did a feasibility study for Export Promotion Council, you know about it, for an export institute. Up to today, I spoke to the current chief executive and he said he's doing he wants to do a virtual institute. I said, for who? For the man in Sokoto, Maiduguri or Calabar? So we are not taking capacity building seriously. And you remember I said, Export thrives on a tripod: development, promotion, and capacity building. Any of them not working, we will be wasting our time.
All right, Obiola, Dr. Madu, to our viewers, I'm really pleased that you could share these few thoughts with us, but you know you are part of this trade, so we are definitely going to be bringing you back on and off on Export Digest. Thank you very much for coming this time.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
No nation depends on one source of revenue if it hopes to create a sustainable economic development and a future for its citizenry. Countries like Malaysia, India, Singapore, and even Kenya have all grown and sustained their respective economies through non-oil exports. Our vision at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is to promote non-oil export as the key driver of the Nigerian economy through strategic diversification of the economy from oil to non-oil. NEPC is strategically positioned to do more through our action plan on 13 national strategic export products, Zero Oil Plan, the One State, One Product Initiative, and the Nigeria Diaspora Export Program, which are needed pillars of success in our National Industrial Revolution Plan. Investing non-oil export business and reap bountifully. Export business guarantees a prosperous future through inclusive wealth and job creation. Join hands to make Nigeria one of the top 20 largest economies in the world. Export business, tomorrow's business. For further inquiries, visit our website on www.nepc.gov.ng.
That's the much time could permit us to take on the program today. Should you have comments and suggestions or inquiries on the program, please contact us on the email address and the telephone number on your screen right now. You can also watch our previous episodes or any one that you have missed thus far on our website www.femiboyede.com/webtv. Till next time I come your way again, I am Femi Boyede saying, think export, do export, and watch Export Digest. See you again.